If you want to change your life, don't start by blaming the world. Start by controlling yourself. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, luck, or opportunity. They fail because they lack control. Control over what they say. Control over how they feel. Control over how they spin. Control over what they think. Your mouth can build or destroy your future. Your mood can push you forward or pull you backward. Your money can free you or trap you. And your mind decides everything. Master these four, and no obstacle can stop you for long. Controlling your mouth is one of the most underrated yet powerful disciplines a person can develop, because words are never neutral. Every sentence you speak is shaping how people see you, how they treat you, and ultimately how life responds to you. Many people think success is about what you do with your hands, but long before actions create results, words create identity. What you constantly say about yourself, your situation, and your plans becomes the story others believe, and often the story you start believing too. When you speak without control, you leak power. Complaining may feel like relief, but it slowly programs your mind to see obstacles instead of opportunities. The more you complain, the more helpless you become, because your mouth trains your brain to focus on what's wrong rather than what's possible. Gossip might feel harmless, but it lowers your value in the eyes of others. People may smile and listen, but deep down they know that someone who talks about everyone will eventually talk about them. Excessive talking, especially about future plans, exposes dreams before they are strong enough to stand. Not every idea needs an audience, and not every goal needs applause. Some things grow best in silence. Strong, focused people understand this. They don't explain themselves to everyone. They don't argue with every opinion. They don't announce every move they're about to make. They know that talk without action creates a false sense of progress. It tricks the mind into feeling productive while nothing is actually changing. Silence, on the other hand, builds pressure. It sharpens focus. It forces execution. When you speak less, you hear more about people, about opportunities, about yourself. Listening becomes an advantage because while others are busy talking, you are busy learning. Controlling your mouth also means controlling excuses. Every excuse spoken out loud becomes a mental contract with failure. The moment you say, "I can't," because your mind stops looking for solutions. Disciplined people replace excuses with ownership. They don't deny problems, but they don't dramatize them either. They speak in ways that move situations forward. Instead of saying, "This is unfair," they ask, "What's the next move?" Instead of saying, "I'm tired," they say, "I'll rest when the work is done." Language shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. Another critical part of controlling your mouth is resisting the urge to explain yourself unnecessarily. Over-explaining often comes from insecurity, not clarity. When you feel the need to justify every decision, you give others power over your direction. Confident people let their consistency do the explaining. They understand that not everyone needs to understand them, and not everyone deserves access to their reasoning. Peace often comes not from saying the right thing, but from saying less. Your reputation is built quietly through repeated patterns of speech. If your words are calm, intentional, and constructive, people begin to associate you with stability and reliability. If your words are emotional, negative, or impulsive, people begin to see you as unpredictable, regardless of your potential. Long before you walk into a room, your reputation arrives first, carried by the memory of how you spoke when things were easy and how you spoke when things were hard. A short example makes this clear. Imagine two people working toward the same goal. The first constantly talks about what they're going to do. They post, announce, complain about obstacles, and explain delays. The second person says very little. When asked, they simply say they're working. Months later, the first person still has stories. The second person has results. When the results appear, no explanation is needed. Silence protected the work, and discipline finished it. Controlling your mouth is not about being quiet all the time. It's about being intentional all the time. Speak when it adds value. Stay silent when it protects your focus. Use words to build, not to vent. Because when you master your mouth, you stop giving away energy, and you start moving with quiet, undeniable power. Controlling your mood is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop because your emotional state quietly decides the quality of your actions. Life does not pause to check whether you are feeling confident, motivated, or calm before it tests you. Problems arrive uninvited. People disappoint you unexpectedly. Plans collapse without warning. Pressure shows up on ordinary days. These things are unavoidable. What separates strong, disciplined people from unstable ones is not the absence of emotional storms, but the ability to remain steady while those storms pass through. When your mood controls you, you become reactive. That means your environment decides your behavior. A harsh word from someone can ruin your focus. A small setback can kill your motivation. A bad morning can poison the rest of your day. In that state, anyone can manipulate you without trying, because your emotions are always exposed and easily triggered. You start living from reaction to reaction instead of intention to intention. Over time, this creates inconsistency, and inconsistency quietly destroys progress. Disciplined people understand that moods are temporary visitors, not leaders. They don't wait until they feel inspired to act, because inspiration is unreliable. They act first and let discipline carry them through emotional lows. They know that motivation comes and goes, but commitment stays. When they feel tired, they still show up. When they feel angry, they slow down instead of exploding. When they feel discouraged, they reduce the drama and focus on the next small step. This does not mean they suppress emotions or pretend to be emotionless. It means they refuse to let emotions make decisions for them. One of the most important aspects of controlling your mood is detaching from temporary feelings. Emotions often exaggerate reality. A bad moment can feel like a bad life if you give it too much attention. Disciplined people zoom out. They remind themselves that today's frustration is not tomorrow's destiny. They don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. Quitting, reacting aggressively, or giving up in emotional moments often leads to regret, not relief. Emotional control creates mental space, and mental space allows wise choices. Another critical part of mood control is learning to respond instead of react. Reaction is fast, emotional, and often destructive. Response is slower, intentional, and constructive. Reacting feels natural, but responding builds power. When you pause before acting, you regain control. You give yourself the chance to choose behavior that aligns with your long-term goals instead of your short-term emotions. This pause can be the difference between progress and self-sabotage. Controlling your mood also means accepting that discomfort is part of growth. Many people abandon good paths because they expect comfort too early. They think something is wrong when things feel hard. Disciplined people understand that discomfort is not a signal to stop, but a sign that something meaningful is happening. They don't romanticize struggle, but they don't run from it either. They move forward calmly, knowing that storms pass, but quitting creates lasting consequences. Your mood affects more than just how you feel. It affects how others experience you. People trust and respect those who remain steady under pressure. Calmness in chaos is a form of leadership. When you control your emotions, you become reliable. When you are unpredictable emotionally, people hesitate to depend on you, no matter how talented you are. Emotional stability becomes part of your reputation, and that reputation opens doors that skill alone cannot. A simple example illustrates this clearly. Imagine two people facing the same setback at work. Both are criticized publicly for a mistake. The first person reacts emotionally. They become defensive, complain to everyone, lose focus for the rest of the day, and carry resentment home. Their performance declines, and the mistake defines them. The second person feels the same sting, but pauses. They control their mood. They listen, correct the issue, and continue working calmly. A week later, the mistake is forgotten, but their composure is remembered. One moment tested both, but only one allowed emotion to take control. Controlling your mood is not about being calm all the time. It's about being in charge all the time. Feel what you feel, but don't let feelings decide your future. When you master your mood, you protect your focus, your discipline, and your long-term vision. And once your emotions stop controlling you, nothing external can easily knock you off your path. Controlling your money is less about how much you earn and more about how much discipline you apply. Many people believe financial struggle is caused by low income, bad luck, or lack of opportunity. But in reality, the deeper issue is a lack of respect for money. Money responds to behavior. It grows where there is structure and disappears where there is chaos. When you don't control your money, it quietly starts controlling you, dictating your choices, increasing your stress, and limiting your freedom. Most financial problems begin emotionally, not mathematically. People spend to feel better, to feel important, or to feel accepted. They buy things they don't need to impress people who aren't invested in their future. This creates a cycle where money leaves faster than it arrives, no matter how much is earned. Without discipline, higher income simply leads to higher expenses, not higher stability. That's why many people who earn more still live paycheck to paycheck. The problem isn't income, it's impulse. Discipline with money means learning to live below your means, even when your means increase. This is uncomfortable at first because it goes against ego and social pressure. It requires saying no to temporary pleasures in favor of long-term peace. But this discipline creates breathing room. It reduces anxiety. It gives you options. When you're not constantly worried about bills, debt, or emergencies, your mind becomes clearer and more focused. Financial control is mental control in another form. Another key part of controlling money is prioritizing investment over appearance. Flashy spending gives short-term validation but long-term regret. Investment, on the other hand, often feels boring and unrewarding at first, but it compounds quietly. Wealth is rarely built through dramatic moments. It's built through repeated, consistent decisions that don't look impressive from the outside. Saving regularly, investing patiently, and avoiding unnecessary debt may not impress anyone today, but they build a future that doesn't need validation tomorrow. Delayed gratification is the foundation of financial strength. This means resisting the urge to have everything now. It means understanding that just because you can afford something doesn't mean you should buy it. Emotionally driven spending often comes from stress, comparison, or insecurity. Disciplined people pause before spending. They ask whether a purchase aligns with their long-term goals or simply feeds a short-term feeling. That pause alone saves more money than most budgeting tricks. Spending with purpose instead of emotion changes everything. Purposeful spending supports growth, stability, and health. Emotional spending supports momentary pleasure followed by regret. When money is spent intentionally, it starts working for you instead of against you. You stop feeling guilty after purchases. You stop fearing bank notifications. You stop needing constant income just to survive. Slowly, money shifts from being a source of stress to a tool for building freedom. Financial control also builds self-respect. When you manage money well, you trust yourself more. You become less desperate, less reactive, and less dependent on external approval. This confidence spills into other areas of life. You negotiate better. You walk away from bad situations. You take calculated risks instead of reckless ones. Money doesn't just buy things. It buys time, choice, and peace of mind. A short example makes this clear. Imagine two people earning the same income. The first spends as soon as money arrives. New clothes, new gadgets, eating out constantly, and upgrading everything the moment they can. They look successful but live with constant pressure. One unexpected expense throws them into panic. The second person lives more quietly. They save first, invest consistently, and spend carefully. They delay upgrades and ignore comparison. After a few years, nothing about their lifestyle looks dramatic, but their stress is low. Their options are wide and their future is secure. Same income, different discipline, completely different outcomes. Controlling your money is not about being cheap or fearful. It's about being intentional and patient. It's about understanding that real wealth is not loud. It doesn't need to be proven. It shows up as freedom. Freedom to say no, freedom to walk away, freedom to breathe. When you control your money instead of letting it control you, you stop chasing comfort and start building security. And that security becomes the foundation for a life lived on your terms, not your expenses. Controlling your mind is the foundation of every form of success, because nothing in your external life changes until something shifts internally first. Before discipline shows up in actions, it exists as a decision in the mind. Before confidence appears in behavior, it is formed in thought. A weak, undirected mind creates a chaotic life, not because the person lacks ability, but because their thoughts pull them in too many directions at once. A focused mind, on the other hand, simplifies life. It filters noise, strengthens purpose, and aligns actions with long-term vision. The mind is not a peaceful place by default. It is a battlefield. Doubt whispers that you are behind. Fear warns you that failure will embarrass you. Distraction pulls your attention toward comfort and entertainment. Comparison convinces you that everyone else is winning faster. These forces are constant, and they do not disappear when you decide to improve your life. In fact, they often become louder. What determines the outcome is not whether these thoughts appear, but whether you allow them to stay. Whatever you repeatedly entertain in your mind eventually shapes your identity. One of the most important aspects of mental control is guarding what you consume. Your mind absorbs everything: what you watch, what you listen to, what you scroll through, and what conversations you allow. If you constantly feed your mind negativity, drama, and low standards, your thinking becomes reactive and scattered. If you feed it focus, discipline, and purpose, it becomes sharper and more resilient. Many people underestimate how much their mental state is influenced by their environment. You cannot expect a strong mind while constantly surrounding it with weak inputs. Negative self-talk is another silent destroyer of progress. The mind listens to itself more than it listens to anyone else. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not good enough, not ready, or not capable, your behavior begins to match that belief. You hesitate, you procrastinate, you settle. Controlling your mind does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means correcting destructive internal dialogue before it becomes identity. Disciplined people speak to themselves with honesty and firmness, not cruelty. They acknowledge flaws, but they don't turn flaws into excuse. Ease to quit. Commitment to long-term goals is also a mental discipline. The mind naturally seeks quick rewards and immediate comfort. Long-term goals require patience, consistency, and the ability to delay gratification. This creates tension because the mind often wants relief now, while success demands endurance. People who lack mental control give up when progress is slow, not because the goal is impossible, but because their thoughts convince them it is pointless. A controlled mind understands that progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. It stays steady during quiet seasons, trusting the process, even when results are not yet visible. Believing in yourself before results show up is not arrogance, it is necessity. Results are delayed feedback. If you only believe when proof arrives, you will quit too early. Mental strength allows you to hold belief during uncertainty. This belief is not loud or emotional, it is calm and consistent. It shows up as persistence, not speeches. It allows you to continue working when validation is absent and encouragement is limited. Most breakthroughs are preceded by periods where belief is the only thing keeping you moving. A focused mind has the ability to turn pressure into power. Pressure breaks people who are mentally scattered because they interpret it as a threat. But a controlled mind sees pressure as a signal to sharpen focus. Pain becomes instruction instead of punishment. Failure becomes feedback instead of identity. This shift is subtle but powerful. It changes how you experience challenges. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what is this teaching me? That question alone changes outcomes. A short example illustrates this clearly. Imagine two people training for the same long-term goal. Both start motivated. After a few months, progress slows. The first person's mind fills with doubt and comparison. They scroll, overthink, question themselves, and slowly disengage. They don't quit dramatically, they quit mentally first, then behavior follows. The second person experiences the same frustration but controls their mind. They limit distractions, remind themselves why they started, and keep showing up despite boredom and uncertainty. Months later, the difference is obvious, not because one was more talented, but because one protected their thinking. Controlling your mind is not about eliminating negative thoughts. It is about refusing to let them lead. Thoughts will come and go, but discipline decides which ones deserve attention. When you master your mind, you stop being controlled by moods, circumstances, and opinions. You move with clarity instead of chaos. And once your mind is under control, everything else, your actions, habits, and results, begins to fall into place naturally. Control your mouth and you'll protect your future. Control your mood and you'll stay unshakable. Control your money and you'll build freedom. Control your mind and you'll control your life. This isn't about perfection, it's about discipline. It's about showing up every day, staying solid when it's hard, and choosing growth over comfort. Play the long game, stay patient, stay focused, stay relentless. Because once you master yourself, the world has no choice but to respect you.